Michelle Obama, third consecutive DNC speech. They were not happy with. They are not happy with Donald Trump, and her speech. Also, we're going to get to the former president's speech, Barack Obama. But I want to start here at home. Mayor Giles from Mesa is a Republican, and I want you to hear he's speaking there. He went there as a Republican to endorse and support Vice President Harris because he says he can't vote for Donald Trump. Now, we are going to have the mayor on the show tomorrow. He is going to join us, and I have some policy questions for him because I am a little confused by this. But I want you to hear what the mayor of Mesa had to say yesterday at the Democratic National Convention.
I have a confession to make. I'm a lifelong Republican. So I feel a little out of place tonight. But I feel more at home here than in today's Republican Party.
So, you know, I don't understand the goal here. I don't know what the personal axe to grind is. I've been to events with the mayor a couple of years ago. I was at an event with him where he said, I have not changed parties yet. I was there when he said it. So I don't have any animosity. I mean, I think people's political differences make us a great place. He talks about this not being the GOP that he remembers. But what I don't understand, and these are the questions I'm going to ask the mayor tomorrow, is I don't understand what the policies are that he agrees with. Is this purely about personality? Because he did talk about failed promises. He did say this about Donald Trump.
Trump made a lot of lofty promises. Unlimited economic growth, American manufacturing reborn, a secure border. Turns out Donald Trump was all talk. He wanted our votes, but he couldn't deliver a thing.
And again, that's the policy stuff I want to talk about. How is this administration, which the vice president has been an integral part of, how have they fulfilled any of those promises? Inflation, gas prices set records during this administration. And again, I'm a Republican, and I'm in my mind, I understand the alienation of Republicans. I will tell you that I've been very clear and very vocal about this. When the former president, when President Trump went after John McCain, even after John McCain had passed away, I thought it was the biggest political mistake he could make. In Arizona, I think it killed him in Arizona. I believe that. He lost Arizona by 15,000 votes or somewhere in that neighborhood. There were a couple of million people that voted in that election. There's no way you can tell me that by saying the horrible things that you said about John McCain, and I like people that didn't get captured, and all of this, you've got to be consistent. And that's my opinion, is you've got to be consistent in your beliefs. I am absolutely pro-military, pro-veteran. I think the veteran community are the finest that we have. I think that when you look at the military, there are three groups of people that stand out within the veteran community. That all of them are respected. But there are groups that within the veteran community, other veterans stand up and respect. One of them is the Medal of Honor recipients. Whenever you see someone who has earned the Medal of Honor, when they walk into a room, everybody knows it. It is also the Code Talkers. Last week was Code Talkers Day. I had the privilege of spending time and befriending one of the Code Talkers who has passed away a few years ago, named Joe Kelwood. And everywhere Mr. Kelwood went, people stopped and listened. He had a very, very quiet voice. And I remember standing in the middle of 7th Street when the Veterans Day Parade used to go from the VA at 7th Street in Indian School and end at Camelback in Central. And now it's in the reverse order. But we were standing in 7th Street waiting for the parade to start. And Mr. Kelwood was standing there and with his Code Talker shirt on and his Marine hat. And all these young Marines that were carrying that massive flag at the front of the procession, the front of the parade, were there. And they were just mesmerized by the stories, because every branch of the military is so bought into the history of their branch of the service, and those Marines were no exception. And Mr. Kelwood was telling stories to these young Marines about being a Marine and being a Code Talker, and they were hanging on every word. And when he got done, he began to sing the Marine Corps hymn, and he sang it in Navajo. And everybody began to cry. And these young Marines joined in English. And it was like watching generational history of the Marine Corps in the middle of 7th Street. But that is the respect that the Code Talkers also command. And thirdly, it is POWs, the prisoners of war, the men and women that have been captured and held prisoner. And so I've been very clear about my criticism of what the former president said about I like people that weren't captured. I thought it was a horrible thing to say. I thought going after John McCain was wrong. But I can tell you something else, and I want you to hear Mayor Giles' comments about John McCain. I'm going to give my rebuttal respectfully.
My hero, John McCain, taught us to put country over party. And that's how Vice President Harris and Governor Walz will lead too.
Okay, I don't believe that's true at all, but I do say I was with Senator McCain in his office. Now, I don't claim to have been best friends with John McCain, but I can tell you this. I knew him, and I knew him pretty well. He was very good to me. I always described this period of time when John McCain and Donald Trump didn't like each other. They just didn't. They didn't like each other. And I felt like a kid caught up in a bad divorce. And what I mean by that is I voted for Trump. Going to vote for him again. But I didn't like what he was saying about McCain. Just like a kid in a bad divorce. I really, really admired John McCain. And I didn't like the fact that he didn't like Donald Trump. But I'll tell you the difference. John McCain, I sat in his office the day before Trump was inaugurated in 2017, January of 2017. And sitting in his office, we talked about him. And he didn't like him. And he was behind closed doors. He had no problem saying he didn't like him. But he said to me, and he said this on the air at one point, that Donald Trump had assembled the best cabinet he had seen since Ronald Reagan. He said, watch what he does, not what he says. I firmly believe in my heart, if the insinuation is from Mayor Giles and others that John McCain would have voted for Vice President Harris over President Trump, I think they're 100% wrong. These are based on my personal conversations with John McCain. John McCain did say country over party. There were times that John McCain voted in opposition of his own political party, but he never abandoned it, and he stood by its principles. And there's no way in my mind, and this is, again, where it's putting country over self, that in spite of all of the horrible things that were said about him by President Trump, he still said to me, watch what he says, watch what he does, not what he says. So I'm anxious to talk to Mayor Giles tomorrow because, again, I don't claim to have any insight into the mind of John McCain other than I had conversations with him the day before Trump's first inauguration. The deterioration or no relationship between the two of them, the dislike they both had, was very clear. There was no doubt that they didn't like each other. But McCain had done his job professionally, that when there were things that were done by the president that he agreed with, he put it up on Senator John McCain letterhead and he said, thank you to the president for doing this and doing that. When he disagreed with the president, he disagreed very vocally on policy stuff. I just look at this and I wonder what the mayor of Mesa is accomplishing here for himself, for his party. What policies is it, or is this strictly about, I just can't stand Donald Trump and I don't care what the policies of the opposition are. They've got to be better than what he'll do. I'm anxious. I think it's a fair conversation, and I'm very happy that he's going to come on tomorrow to talk about it.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.